This is the Cool Kids Film Club podcast. Watch films with us.
This is part 2 of the From Dusk Till Dawn Cool Kids Film Club podcast with me, Trevor Webb, and another guy called Gavin Rye. He's a lovely chap. It was pretty long, so we've cut it up into 2 bits. This is the second bit. If you haven't seen the first bit, you should go watch the first bit. And if you haven't seen the film, watch a film, then watch the first bit, then watch this bit. Or just go and have a cup of tea. Whatevs.
Oi, you! Do not watch this podcast if you have not already seen the film. It's a spoiler review. It contains spoilers. It's simple, really. If you want to come back once, that's up to you. But don't watch this podcast until you've seen the film. Alright. Cool. Cheers, mate.
So what did you think of the second half, and do you want to give us a brief synopsis of the second film?
Well, it's at this point where everybody, it seems, turns into vampires. And they've trapped everybody into the titty twister and they are feasting upon them.
Dinner is
served.
Yeah, it's like I don't know how often they do it, but they lure these bikers and truck drivers in and then feast upon their blood. It's just what they do, isn't it? It's their hobby.
Yeah, watching it this time, I was wondering how... I don't know if it's even possible, but I guess there must be some people who go into it without knowing that it's a vampire film. I mean, I can't remember the first time I saw it. It's so long ago, back in the 90s. What, you didn't know?
Nothing. Paul recommended it to me, as I stated earlier, and he said, I want to play you a film, don't look into it. And I went round it that day, watched it, didn't look into it, and holy shit. And it's the way you should watch it. Definitely. I mean, yes, it's probably hard to nowadays, but...
She watched it with him?
Yeah, at his house.
And you two were able to watch it all?
Yeah. Why?
I thought you might have, macked off halfway through, started macking on each other.
Macking? What is macking? Is that where you go to McDonald's?
No, that's like an American term. You macking off.
Is that where you go to the Apple store? Because this was in 1996. I don't think they had Apple stores then.
No, you kissing. Did you not? Were you not kissing him?
No. I mean, I sucked his toes a bit, but that was...
All right. Had he made you the mixtape by now, or was this after?
I don't know the timeline of the From Dusk Till Dawn / mixtape. I think the mixtape came after.
So yeah, everybody turns into a vampire now.
We do.
And we get the worst bit of the film.
Well, kind of. First of all, what do you think of the vampires in this film?
It's tough to say with the look, because I feel like this might have been the first time we had that look for vampires, which kind of became the cliche, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer look, is where it's basically just a rigid forehead, and the eyes, which every vampire flick seemed to take after that.
I felt some of them looked good and then some of them didn't. It was quite inconsistent with the look and the design of them. You had Salma Hayek's vampire, who just looked like a serpent. Then you had Frost, when he turns into a vampire. He's pretty, bit. That's how I'm describing that.
They seem to take on different angles, because there's one where you get like a full-on creature and it's very rat-like.
Yeah, I've got a whole note about that. That's Sex Machine. He gets his head cut off and then he just spouts a rat head, and then all his clothes come off and he just turns into a big rat.
That reminded me a lot of two creatures actually in Brain Dead. There's a couple of Brain Dead references I thought I caught here. Where one, the fact that it's like this massive massacre in one room. Two, the fact that George Clooney makes the drill steak a little later on, which is kind of reminiscent of Lionel with his lawnmower. And then that rat creature looks a bit like the Sumerian rat at the beginning of Brain Dead, and it looks a little bit like so I don't know if Brain Dead's an influence for Robert Rodriguez.
I think Brain Dead or Dead Alive is a reference.
No, Brain Dead. That American version is actually quite cut. There's a lot of difference to the Dead Alive. If you ever watch it with the Dead Alive version, you haven't seen the film because it's cut.
Didn't know. But yeah, as you've stated, all hell breaks loose. The whole tone, the mood, the pace, even the genre of the movie completely change at this point. It is, we joked about it. We did a little joke, didn't we? We said it was a different film. It genuinely does feel like a different film. I mean, but it works. I mean, my issue, I think, with the vampires was not the look of them. They were quite inconsistent and stuff, but because Robert Kurtzman and Greg Nicotero, they just wanted to showcase what they could do, I think, and they did loads of stuff all over the place, and they didn't really worry about whether it fit in or what.
Yeah, there's a thing in the making of this where apparently Robert Rodriguez just met up with them and was like so excited because this was his first film with like effects, and he apparently made loads of sketches and loads of character designs, and he's like, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then when it came to set, they already built the stuff that he designed, and apparently Robert Rodriguez went, what's this? What's this person? No, I don't remember this. And they were like, yeah, you drew that. You gave us the design. He was like, oh, okay, let's go with it. So apparently a lot of that, he was just so excited about the fact he was making a film with effects that he made so many designs that he just completely forgot a lot of them.
You just called Kurtzman Robert Rodriguez.
Robert Rodriguez again. Everyone's Robert Rodriguez to me again.
So it seems. I can forgive all of the inconsistencies and things. But an issue I did have is the basic general stupidity and lameness of the vampires. How have they survived for hundreds of years? How? They don't have a good ambush plan set up. They're weak as fuck. I mean,
yeah, it's even brought up, isn't it, that the fact that their skin and their bodies are mushy, I think they could say.
So yeah, during the scene, there's chaos, mayhem going all over the place. Vampires are force-fed crosses, which of course make them explode. Multiple throats are slit. Blood is drained, and Frost gets revenge on all the girls that knocked his towers over earlier in the night. He gets all the girls and puts them on the table, which you brought up earlier, which I enjoyed. And all the time, whilst all this is going on, the band are still playing, and now they've got instruments made of body parts.
Richie gets killed. He gets bitten and killed.
He does. There's quite a lot of vampires in the Titty Twister. They managed to deal with them. Again, shows how kind of weak they are, but most of them survive, as you've just said. Richard gets bitten, though, which does lead to a good scene with him and his brother.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way it's made out that he's doesn't want to kill his brother, and that he wants, you always get that scene, especially in zombie films, where like the family members turned into a zombie and the person can't do it, and they usually end up biting that person. But this time, it's making it out like it's going to be like that, but really it's just he wants to be the one that kills his brother.
Something about giving you the peace in death that I could not give you in life, which I quite like that line. It shows why he would have left him alone in the motel room. He had that hope for him. He thought bringing him to Mexico was going to be that changing grace. He thought he could change.
I took it more as the fact that, he's finally rid of this burden. He loved him and everything as his brother, but it was always a pain in the arse for him.
He did break him out of jail.
Yeah, I guess.
So also, in amongst all of this, Sex Machine gets bitten as well.
And we get the old cliche of, again, a big zombie thing, really, where somebody's been bitten and they hide it from everybody else.
And then as Frost is giving his monologue about his war times back in Nam. I've always wanted to go to Vietnam. My sister went to Vietnam fairly recently, before all the lockdowns and stuff, obviously. And I kept telling her, anytime you talk about things you did in Nam, you have to say, back in Nam, and then tell the story. And she thought that was in bad taste. So she refuses to do that, which I think is a wasted opportunity.
I was actually in Nam.
Like Vietnam, the country, or the war?
The war? I don't know. Why would you laugh?
Because it's why?
Downplaying my experience. Well, I was drafted. I was sent over to war.
Tell us about it. Tell us about your experiences.
Well, it was horrible. I don't like to talk about it, and I won't.
We shouldn't have brought it up then. You brought it up. Tell us a story.
There was lots of dead people, weren't there? And it made me go mad afterwards, and I saw people jerking their faces around, and then I was in the hospital, and there was a jerky wheel on the trolley, and then Macaulay Culkin came, and he was at the bottom of the stairs.
Okay. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Some people will get that.
Jerky faces. No, I don't.
Yeah, jerky faces like that. And then Macaulay Culkin at the bottom of my stairs. I was a postman. Keir will get it, don't you worry.
Fair enough.
Keir, send me a message right now when you're watching this saying, I get it. Because he gets it.
I don't get it, but I'm not one of the cool kids.
You don't, and I refuse to explain.
I'm not even going to ask. I accepted my not coolness ages ago. That's why I named this film club the Cool Kids Film Club Podcast, because it's ironic, Gary, because I'm not one of them cool kids. I don't get your Macaulay Culkin jerky face references. I don't want to.
Good.
I know my place. So when he does turn, there's a bit of a scuffle, isn't there? And he bites Frost and Jacob before being thrown through the front door, letting in hundreds of vampire bats. Oops. Seth, Kate, Scott, and Jacob managed to lock themselves in a back room with the aid of a cross made of a shotgun and a baseball bat, which I fucking loved. That was awesome. The cross doubles up as a...
Lovely.
Knowing Jacob has limited time before he will turn, they decide to tool up and take out as many vampires as they can. I mean, what would you do? You're in this situation, Gavin. You're there. You're in the room with Seth, Jacob, Kate, and Scott. You're there. You're going to kill some vampires. How would you do it?
What's my situation? Have I been bitten?
No.
What do I do then? I mean, I've seen the film, so I'd be like, let's wait till dawn.
Okay, but let's say that's not an option. You're fighting, Gavin. You've got to fight. Everyone else is fighting. They're opening the door. If you don't fight, you're just going to get fucked.
I guess I'd, I'd go, I'd have a look, see what's around. I mean, they find some good stuff.
But you don't have a plan of how you'd go about it, how you'd tactically take them out.
No. Why, have you got a plan?
Yes. Right, the back room is basically the end of a long corridor. Why not just open the door and let them kind of funnel in a few at a time and just tap them on the head with something sharp or in the heart?
Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, they should. It's a bottleneck, isn't it? So they should just all stock up on holy water and just let them come in throwing the holy water, and they all melt, don't they, to almost nothing.
Yeah, the bodies wouldn't stack up. It's the perfect plan. But I 100% definitely would not run into the middle of a room and let them surround me and just rely on the fact that these vampires are all fans of old kung fu movies where only one comes at you at a time. That's kind of their strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got a point there. I'll go with your plan.
That made me angry. I don't think I've never really taken issue with that before, but I did on this watching. So yeah, they go out, they go into the main room, all run off into separate directions. They don't like form a circle or anything. They just, I'll go over here, I'll go on the bar, you do this, right? I'm gonna go over there. And it's during these fight sequences that we get a few of the bigger issues in the film. We mentioned earlier Sex Machine suddenly turning into a rat thing once his head was chopped off. How did you feel about that?
I was all right with it. I went with it at the time.
Do you not think it's just Kurtzman saying, right, I want to make someone a rat? Why? We're making a vampire film. Yeah, but like, I've got this really good idea. I've like great design. Look at this picture. It's a rat. We're making a vampire film. So I'm not doing it unless I can make someone a rat.
I think everybody's different enough, isn't it? Where you can
Nobody's a fucking rat.
No one's a rat, but yeah, all right, I'll give you that.
It was a bit odd.
It feels like they're just throwing everything at the screen at that point. Yeah, like let's just go all out.
Mm-hmm. Another issue I had was when Jacob shoves his shotgun through Frost's body and he's kind of shooting vampires on the other side of him. Frost is within arm's reach of Jacob, but yet he's just standing there, his arms are out. He's like...
Don't you think, though, that maybe vampires still feel the pain and it's through his stomach, so it's still a bit like, oh, that's uncomfortable?
I still think even if you felt it and you were in pain, I think you'd have the capacity to just go like that and hit him around the head.
Nah. If someone was through my stomach, I'd be like, oh, come on now, that's my stomach. Ouchie.
You wouldn't attempt to stop them. You would just wail your arms about. He wasn't even wailing his arms out. He's literally just...
I feel like that kind of stuff you can bring up in almost any film.
I don't know. It seemed strange, right? That is small. That's a small issue, right? And granted, it looked cool when he had to reload and he did it by kind of shaking the whole shotgun and his body on the shotgun kind of cocks the shotgun. It looked cool, so you can forgive it. But what I don't think I can forgive, Jacob pulls the shotgun out, pulls it back to whack him round the face with it, and Frost just looks at the shotgun, pulls a face, he goes, and then explodes himself for no reason. It's like out of fear. It's like a suicide thing. It's really stupid.
Does he?
Yeah.
I mean, there's another explosion issue, because when Juliette Lewis's character, what's her name?
Kate,
yeah, when Kate shoots her brother, whoever she shoots, whether she shoots one of the vampires or one of the brothers, just all of them explode.
Yeah, there's a few issues from the effects aspect, but
I mean, it feels a bit like they're just going for the carnage there, and a little bit of logic has been left behind.
yeah, and I was fine with that for the majority of it. The fact that most of the vampires are quite inconsistent and stuff, and a lot of it was a little bit silly. But the two main things for me was the rat and the guy just kind of committing suicide by making himself explode. Those two things I wasn't keen on. So from the final battle, Seth and Kate are the only two survivors, but they're soon surrounded by vampires. Pretty much out of bullets. They have a couple. They realise that the sun's coming in and it's shining all down, so they shoot a few holes in. But it's not enough, is it?
It's not enough.
And just as you think time is up, now they're out of bullets, Carlos turns up. And he kicks in the doors, the sunlight floods in, and all the vampires go poof.
I had a little, only a slight issue with this, where, like, he's at the door, he knocks on the door, and Seth shouts, "Shoot it in!" And just without question, he just starts shotgunning the door. I feel like you'd be like, oh, there's a bar, it's dusk, maybe they're not open. I'm not sure the first thought, even if somebody said, shoot the door in, would be to shoot the door in.
I think after being told to shoot it in, you know there's an issue.
Why? What?
Right, okay. All right, put yourself in a situation. You're outside your house right now. You're coming home. You've been at work. You're coming home. You're in the house. You hear Tara screaming and the door's locked. And she says, kick the door down. Quick, come in, help me. You wouldn't kick the door in?
Well, that's Tara and my house, not a bar that I've never been to, which he admits he's never been to, and a guy that I'm just doing some drug deal with.
But still, you hear someone screaming and wanting help. You've got guns. You're going to use them. Yeah, sure, there might be a, should we? Yeah, go on then. But that's not an interest. Like, why have that pause?
Like I say, not a big issue, but it's a bit strange.
Yeah, and then that's pretty much the end. Although, as they drive off, Seth gives Kate some money and then drives off, which I kind of... Seth doesn't have some big character arc where he realizes he's been a dick and turns into a good guy. He's literally now just off to El Rey to carry on his life of crime.
And then I really like the very, very final shot where you see the back of the titty twister and just loads of broken down trucks, and it's almost like an Aztec-y temple where it goes down and down. Although what is in those?
It's like an ancient burial ground Egyptian pyramid-y thing, and they've just like they were living there, they're hanging out, and they thought, oh, you know what we should turn this top bit into? We should make it into a bar and like make bikers and stuff come here. It's like a loft conversion for them, isn't it? Like... So, Keir Mills, he is in my shed right now, and he's a lovely chap, isn't he? He's a host of another channel. She Gave Me a Pen. Look it up, subscribe, like it. He does lots of them videos, doesn't he? And he's done us a video for this film. We're going to cut to him now. Give a cheer for Keir! Yeah, what he said.
From Dusk Till Dawn. Has there ever been a movie so utterly 90s as From Dusk Till Dawn? Tarantino, the sandy sepia-type wash, the George Clooney tattoo. George Clooney? Juliette Lewis? It simply looks and feels like a movie totally of its time. And this is no bad thing. I mean, really, it's two films rolled into one. The first half is covered in Tarantino, and not just because he plays the main supporting role in this section. A fact that would normally fill every cinema connoisseur with utter dread. He is actually quite good in this role. Well, can you really say good when talking about Tarantino acting? Maybe he just isn't utterly appalling. With this and Jimmy from Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino really should have ended his career in front of the camera. For the good of us all. The dialogue and the action in the opening scene is drenched in Tarantino style. From the softly spoken sheriff to the hyperactive attendant to the suave sophistication of Clooney's Seth. It just screams of the Tazmeister. Yeah, I didn't want to use the word Tarantino again. Damn it! The first part of the story focuses on two gangsters who take a family hostage and force them to smuggle them over the Mexican border in their RV. It's a simple premise that lulls you into the full sense of security that you are going to be watching a classic guns on the run type affair, as this group navigates through the American Southwest, leaving chaos in their wake. And, well, that could have been an equally enjoyable movie in the hands of this writer. But suddenly, the film shifts violently away from Quentin gangster mode and straight into the fiery pits of Robert Rodriguez action exploitation, as the entire extended cast unleash vampiric hell on our main players. And it is a change of direction executed excellently. In fact, it's more than a change of direction. It's a change of frickin' vehicle. From Dusk Till Dawn was taken from a story actually written by Robert Kurtzman, a man who was responsible for the makeup on such horror classics as Evil Dead 2, The People Under the Stairs, and Night of Creeps. And you can tell that this second part has largely indulged its original creator's horror vision. The action is smashed around the screen with extravagant pulp and gore. Body parts are made into weapons, limbs and organs are turned into musical instruments, and decapitation is nearly everyone's choice of demise. Every single death could be preceded by a Mortal Kombat type cry of, "Finish him!" Such is the fantastical special move type nature of every attack. It really is a joy to watch. George Clooney is excellent here. He certainly ripped up his safe, all mums love him, cheeky, chappy, lovable rogue doctor type that made him famous on American TV juggernaut ER. Harvey Keitel offers predictably strong support as the father of the family taken hostage, a preacher who, having lost his wife, has he himself lost his way, conflicted in his belief and his empty adoration of God. As he says, "I do believe in Jesus, yes, I do believe in God, but do I love them? No." A conundrum rather eloquently put, and it perfectly encapsulates his character. A man who is steadfast in his morals, but capable of committing a multitude of atrocities in the blink of an eye when called upon. Juliette Lewis and Ernest Liu are fine here as the two children, but if we're being fair, they're really not given that much to work with. Treated more like an extra pair of hands when it comes to the vampire slaying. However, we do get some nice peripheral characters in Sex Machine and Frost. Now, as you may well expect from a Robert Rodriguez movie, there are room for roles for Danny Trejo, Salma Hayek and Cheech Marin. I mean, it just wouldn't be a Rodriguez movie otherwise. The soundtrack is what happens when Tarantino goes to Mexico. Never before known slices of cool become synonymous with the film and thus find themselves ingrained into modern pop culture. Tito and Tarantula's After Dark is the standout tune. But you can't overlook the excellence of The Blaster's Dark Knight and Mary Had a Little Lamb by Buddy Gay. Overall, From Dusk Till Dawn is a stone-cold classic. It's a movie soaked in slick, bad acidness. It has everything you could possibly want from a popcorn-filled 1 hour 40. It has action, it has sentiment, it has iconic characters, and it has iconic performances. It's directed with class and written in style. It has a damn fine ending, and, in honesty, it's a lot smarter than it purports to be. Also within the script are some endlessly quotable soundbites. Psychos do not explode when sunlight hits them. I do not give a fuck how crazy they are. I may be a bastard, but I'm not a fucking bastard. You touch my brother with that steak biker, and vampires won't have to suck your blood. They'll be licking it up off the floor. So much fun. And I mean, damn. When I grow up, I want to be George Clooney. Laters.
That was Keir Mills again. Thank you very much, kind sir. Now, we have actually had the video this week. We've just watched it. What did you think?
He's got a good point about... It's an interesting point, actually, and one worthy of discussion about like cult films, and especially cult films that you were around for when they came out. I mean, I'm a big fan of cult films from the 80s and stuff, but wasn't really about for them there. Whereas like the 90s, that was my time. This is probably like more of my closing statement as well. But I think back in the day that I watched this, and especially with the fact that, like I said earlier, every school had their kid that recited the pussy line, and despite the fact that it is a cult film, this was quite popular at my school, and I was a bit of too cool for school, which is why I never went to school. I did really, but I think I was a bit more blasé about it at the time, and I was a bit of a dick, to be honest. Something that I've actively attempted to stop these days, especially with things like remakes and 90s slashes. And watching it this time, I purposely, knowing the fact that when I originally watched it, I didn't like the second half very much. I didn't like the turn in events, but this time I watched it with a bit more of an open mind and just really enjoyed absolutely everything. And I think Keir's got a good point there with the fact that this is just such a 90s movie. And the 90s wasn't the coolest time at all. But yeah, I really enjoyed it this time, and I'm going to give it a very, very hard, high, solid 8 out of 10, because I'm now turning this into my thoughts and outro. There we go. Where have you gone?
I'm here. My phone's stopped recording.
Oh dear, have you started again?
No, it won't record anymore. I think it's out of battery. So we'll be using this camera for this final part of the podcast. Yeah, no, Keir pretty much nailed it. He's said a lot of the points that I feel I've brought up in this about Seth being a badass. He's done a few of the quotes which I threw up earlier. Yeah, I mean, I think what Keir said is right. This has basically been one of my favourite films for well over 20 years now, but I haven't watched it for a long time until yesterday. When re-watching, I was glad to see that it still holds up. I mean, I think the first half was such an excellently written concept with such brilliant characters that, as Keir just stated, I would have gladly just watched that as a film. If it was just that style throughout the whole thing, that would have been a great Tarantino movie. But as much as I love Tarantino films, I've always preferred horror. So when it does change genre, I just fucking loved it. And especially as the first time I watched it, I didn't know what was coming. It was one of the best movie experiences ever, I think, watching it not knowing. And then when that happens, it's like, holy shit, just not expecting it and comes out of nowhere. Brilliant. Some of the CGI effects look admittedly terrible, but most of the practical stuff looked great. I loved every character in the film, but Seth Gecko is still to this day one of my best characters in any film ever. He's just such a badass. Made me want a neck tattoo. It does have some issues in the final third, which I've brought up already, mostly the rat and the vampire just kind of randomly exploding out of fear. Which has made this rating kind of tricky. Pre-rewatching it, this was a 10 out of 10 film for me. But it's got a few issues which I brought up. And a 10 out of 10 film is surely a perfect film, isn't it? So I can't give it 10 out of 10, can I? Really? But I'm going to. So there. It's essentially a 9 out of 10 film, but I'm giving it a bonus point for the brilliant script, Seth Gecko's character, and the Santa Nico pandemonium dance scene. I mean, that's 3 bonus points there. So really, if it's a 9 out of 10 film with 3 bonus points, that's technically a 12 out of 10 film. But I'll round it down to 10. 10 out of 10 for me. It's not perfect, but it's fucking awesome. And it's honestly one of my favourite films of all time ever. Yeah, I'm going 10 out of 10. Fight me.
Yeah, I might fight you. I might come around and fight you.
One quick thing, which is something you asked me to do, but you haven't brought it up. Top 3 vampire movies. You went first last week. with top 3 clowns. So I'm going to go first this week. We've also got to do next week's film as well. Let's do that now quickly before we do the top 3. Let's get up the thing. This week we have 29 entries. There are 6 movies, which I'm going to try something new this week and try have all the movies come up on the screen that are on there. Are you going to have a guess for a number before I hit draw?
4.
Okay. You're well off. 13.
Oh.
Yeah, well, 13, as will be coming up on the screen right now, is Warren Winter's pick of Moon from 2009, starring Sam Rockwell.
Just about only Sam Rockwell.
I've actually never seen this, so...
Really?
Yeah. I like Sam Rockwell as an actor, so I'm looking forward to it. So, top 3 vampire movies. We teased it a second ago. I'm going to go first. I'm not a massive vampire film fan, usually. I'll be honest. I don't like your Draculas or your Nosferatus or... So I might be the wrong person to ask. But in at number 3, for me, is The Lost Boys. Good film. Liked it. A good 8 out of 10 film. Enjoyed it. Number 2 is What We Do in the Shadows. A good comedic, funny film. And then in at number 1, I mean, I've already given it 10 out of 10, so you probably already know. From Dusk Till Motherfucking Dawn. Great film. What are yours?
In at number 3 is What We Do in the Shadows. I'd actually forgotten about it until you said. I'm glad you mentioned it because I would have been very upset if I'd have missed that, because it's probably my number 2 comedy of all time after Spinal Tap. So that number 2 is Let the Right One In. Swedish vampire film, absolutely fantastic. Terrible remake, although a lot of people seem to like it. I do not. And number 1, my favourite vampire film of all time is Fright Night. Fright Night, fantastic, superb, great effects, great story, superb. Have you seen it? Have you? Are you thinking of the remake?
No, I've seen that and a remake, but didn't really love either of them. They're both all right.
Nah,
both of them just meh.
Brilliant. No, not meh.
Meh. Everyone watching, if anyone's still watching, this has been quite a long podcast. Put in the comments down below what your top 3 vampire movies are. And then if you put Fright Night, like Gavin has, in at number 1, then you can be wrong too.
Sickening. You're so cool, Brewster.
Don't give a reference.
That's for my Fright Night fans.
I guessed it's from Fright Night, so I got the reference, but I didn't recognise the line. I don't give a shit. Bye!
Oh, goodbye, everyone. I'll enjoy your company.
Are you going to wank anymore, again, though, like last week?
I've never done such a thing.
Are you denying the watching of porn live on the podcast? Ooh, yes. In the pussy.
I'm going to pull back the curtain. I did that for comical effect.
I don't
even like MILFs. Don't even like them.
Lies.
Fuck you, everybody. Good night! This is the Cool Kids Film Club podcast. Watch films with us.